Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, I want to explain something that sits at the very core of so many of our lives: the relationship between parents and their children. For centuries, right, this relationship has been defined by a set of pretty ancient rules, all centered on one thing: obedience. But here's the thing: in our modern world, those old rules, they're causing a lot of friction, a lot of conflict, and frankly, a lot of pain. So today, we're going to dig into that ancient blueprint, explore the power struggles it's creating right now, and see if we can figure out a new path forward, one that shifts us away from obedience and towards mutual respect. Let's get into it. So, to really get a handle on where we are now, we have to go back and understand where we came from. We're going to start by looking at this incredibly powerful idea that has literally shaped families across the globe for thousands of years. And that idea is called filial piety, or Xiao in Chinese. It's a central pillar of Confucianism, and it lays out a really clear hierarchy. Basically, a child's number one job is unwavering obedience and service to their parents. And this wasn't just a friendly suggestion. It was the fundamental blueprint for how family was supposed to work. And you can see from this quote from Confucius that this idea was way bigger than just what happens inside the family home. The family was seen as a kind of training ground. The thinking was, if you raise an obedient child, they'll grow up to be an obedient citizen who respects authority. And that, in turn, creates a stable, orderly society. So the personal was always deeply political. Now, what's really fascinating is that this concept didn't stay frozen in time, it actually evolved. The original Confucian idea had some nuance to it. A child's obedience was supposed to be based on propriety, or what was socially right, and parents had responsibilities too. But later on, as new dynasties wanted more social control, this idea hardened into something much more rigid: a demand for total, unconditional obedience. The parents' authority became absolute, no questions asked. So if you boil it all down, this traditional system really stands on three main pillars. First, that unwavering obedience we talked about. Second, this idea of one-sided service, where kids essentially owe their parents a lifelong debt just for being born. And third, this powerful sense of obligation to the family as a whole, where your own personal dreams often have to take a back seat to the family's name and legacy. Okay, so let's fast forward to today. What happens when this ancient model of absolute parental power collides head-on with our modern ideas about individual freedom and human rights? Well, you get a massive power struggle. And that struggle is playing out big time right now in our legal systems. It's this huge debate between parental rights and children's rights. On one side, you have the argument that parents know what's best, and their authority is a shield that protects the family from the government stepping in too much. But on the other side, the argument is that kids are people too, with their own interests that don't always line up with their parents, and sometimes they actually need the state to protect them from their parents. Now, supporters of strong parental rights make a really compelling point. I mean, let's be real, a child can't make every decision for themselves. They need a surrogate. The real question is, who should that surrogate be? The parent who loves them, or some faceless government official? For a lot of people, the answer is pretty clear. It should be the parent. But, and this is a big but, the push for children's rights comes from a really difficult place. As the philosopher Hugh LaFollette pointed out, parenting is, in his words, a potentially harmful activity. Now, this specific number is from an analysis back in 1980, so the stats change, but the principle he highlighted is as relevant as ever. A staggering number of children can be harmed by the very people who are supposed to protect them. And that forces us to ask some really tough questions about where the limits of parental authority should be. This conflict over who gets the final say, it's not just happening in family court. It's expanding. It's moving into another critical arena: our schools. Because this modern fight isn't just about physical safety anymore. It's about ideas. It's about information. And really, it's about who gets to shape the way a child learns to think about the world. At the very center of this debate is a concept that sounds a little academic, but I promise the idea is simple. It's called epistemic agency. And all that really means is your ability to think for yourself, to look at information, use your own judgment, and decide what you believe. Think of it like a muscle. You have to use it for it to get strong. So here's the concern from one side of the debate. When parental rights bills are used to ban certain books or limit the topics that can be discussed in a classroom, you're effectively cutting off a child's access to what are called epistemic resources. You're taking away the very tools, the different ideas and perspectives that they need to practice that critical thinking muscle. The potential harm here has been called preemptive silencing. It's a powerful phrase. The idea is that by removing these resources, especially ones that reflect the lives of marginalized students, you can actually make it harder for a child to understand themselves and the diverse world they live in. And that doesn't just affect their personal identity. It can impact their ability to be an engaged citizen in a society that's full of different kinds of people and ideas. Okay, so we've looked at the ancient history of obedience and the very modern fights it's causing. So the question becomes a really personal one, right? How do we, in our own lives, start to break these often painful generational cycles and build healthier families? Psychoanalyst Alice Miller gives us a really important place to start. She basically argues that you can't break a cycle if you're pretending it doesn't exist. If we romanticize our own childhoods and refuse to be honest about the pain we might have gone through, it's almost a guarantee that we will unconsciously pass that same pain right on down to our own kids. So, building on that idea, psychologists often point to a clear three-step path. Step one is simply telling yourself the truth, acknowledging what actually happened. Step two is self-awareness, figuring out our own triggers and negative patterns that could put us at risk of repeating history. And finally, step three is empathy, intentionally working to understand others, and just as important, learning to show that same kindness and compassion to ourselves. Okay, let's get even more practical. What are some of the tools we can use to create a new kind of family dynamic, one that's built not on absolute authority, but on humility, communication, and real respect? Researchers have mapped out these 4 main styles of parenting, but for our conversation, the most important distinction is right here, between authoritarian and authoritative. See, both have high expectations for their kids, but the authoritarian parent is low on warmth. It's all rules, no relationship. The authoritative parent, on the other hand, pairs those high expectations with high responsiveness. They set clear boundaries, but they do it with love, warmth, and explanation. And this right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the shift. The old authoritarian model says that apologizing is a sign of weakness, that it undermines your authority. But modern research shows the exact opposite is true. Apologizing to your child doesn't make you weak. It's a superpower. It builds trust, it teaches them accountability, it shows them what a healthy relationship looks like, and maybe most important of all, it shows them that it's okay to not be perfect. And this isn't just for parents. If you are an adult child trying to navigate a relationship with parents who are still stuck in those old rules, this is for you. This change often comes down to setting boundaries. And I want to be really clear, setting a boundary isn't rebellion. It's not disrespect. It's about establishing your fundamental right to be treated with respect, to say no without feeling guilty, and to take care of your own needs. It is the bedrock of any healthy adult relationship. And that kind of leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. The family, right? It's the first society any of us ever belonged to. It's where we learn our first lessons about power and conflict and love. So if we could actually transform that tiny fundamental unit of society, if we could change it from a top-down hierarchy to a relationship built on mutual respect, what kind of world could we build from there? Thanks so much for sticking with me through this. It's a heavy topic, I know, but a really important one. I would love to hear your thoughts and even your own experiences with this down in the comments below. And hey, if there's another topic you'd like me to break down like this, let me know. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more explainers like this one, and click that little bell so you get notified when the next one drops. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.